I don't know, it feels almost, Sisyphusian, is that a word? Like you're pushing that boulder up a hill only to be pushed back down. Because there feels like there's no real end goal anymore. Because again, you can't finally obtain that red sword of courage. There is no line in the sand where you're going to finally step across and go, fuck yeah, finally got it. So, again, to make a long rant even longer, how do you fix this problem without changing the systems? And I think, again, this is an important fact to take into consideration, is that I don't think Titanforging is ever going away. I think to say get rid of Titanforging is just, you're screaming into the wind. It's not going away. It's seen as too much of a net positive for most people. Again, the majority players of World of Warcraft, I think at this point, are probably non-gamers, or at the very least, very casual gamers who do benefit very much from the Titanforging system. They're not the people that are, grinding best in slot and min-maxing everything. They're people just, that want to do stuff, and they even might like the idea of not having anything specific they have to do. But again, I don't think so. I think that's where the Cheesecake Factory effect comes in, where even, non-gamers or very casual gamers would rather know that, oh, I should be doing this. So it gives them kind of a starting point to they would log in and go, today I'm going to run a good card pinnacle, because that is where the best shiny thing that I want is. And then, so that gives them a start point. And then they're on a card pinnacle. I didn't get it this time. Oh, but I also know I need a trinket, so I'm going to go run blah. And so it kind of gives you a concept of what you should be doing. Because right now in Battle for Azeroth, there's lots of other, secondary, tertiary, what is it, I don't know what the tertiary for quarters is. There's a lot of extra stuff to be done. You can be doing island expeditions, which are, I actually do enjoy island expeditions. I just wish there was something better than just Azerite for doing them. I just wish there was, an actual kind of tangible reward. I think the concept is great. I think it's a really good take on the concept of scenarios. And I think it's really well done. It's a bit of a speed rush, but there's a little bit of, there's a little calculation in it, which area are we going for, which boss or zone or section do we want to kind of focus on in order to beat the NPCs towards the goal of collecting Azerite. I think it's a good idea. It's just the rewards it gives are stupid and kind of very bland. Hopefully they'll do more with that. There's the Pathfinder, I think, is a very good way to get people to engage in the achievement system, because now it's a very tangible reward for doing achievements. Again, that's a good thing, because now what are you going to do? I'm going to go grind some rep because I still need a couple more results. That's something else you can be doing besides grinding gear, or besides running for gear. What else is there to do? There's the whole kind of PvP, Battle for Azeroth, War Mode storyline. Okay, I'm going to go do that and work on that. It's also part of Pathfinder. Sure, let's go do that. What else are you going to do? I'm going to work on crafting. I'm just going to go farm, I'm going to go farm ores and herbs so I can work on my crafting. Okay, you can go do that. So there's lots of other things to do, but I feel like you miss those because you're just constantly, you can just constantly be running dungeons and raids. You can always be doing more mythics because you can literally, there's no lockout for mythics. You can keep doing keystones indefinitely. And so now it feels like, well, I can't go do these other secondary tasks because I need to always be running for better gear, because the better gear comes from everywhere. And now it becomes and now this is where the kind of the overwhelming factor of the Cheesecake Factory effect comes in. So anyways, that's kind of went off on a tangent. How do you fix this problem that is directly a result of kind of the Titanforging system, wherein it's all gear is potential gear? You can't really target. And I think Titanforging in general, a lot of people take an issue with it because, I got the item. Shit, I got the item in a Titanforge, but now the tertiary is stupid. I don't need this tertiary. So it's still not the best in slot, because the tertiary, getting a socket on it would be much more impactful and beneficial than this dumb, stat. So, and again, that feels bad, or even worse is, I got the item, but it's not what I want. It's not high enough eye level. It's the correct item, but it didn't Warforge or Titanforge, so it's not useful. Which is even worse, because now you've been running this dungeon, God knows how long, and you actually got it, but now it's not an item that you want to use. So how do you fix this? I think it's a very easy fix, is that you make craftable items that will forcibly Titanforge a drop. That's it. Done. Game over. Or you make it, do a vendor system where you collect, a form of currency, that used to be, bring back Marks of Valor, or, Judgment, Marks of Judgment, or what were the Judgment Points, something like that. I can't remember what it was in Burning or in Wrath. I remember Marks of Valor was kind of, Marks of Valor. Valor Points, there we go. Bring back Valor Points is something that you obtain from doing content, and then make that a very fixed number. So, Heroics always give you 1. Mythic 0 gives you 2. Mythic plus, plus 1 gives you 3. Plus 4 gives you 5. And so on and so forth. So there's a very clear-cut way to get them. And then you could say every LFR boss drops gives you 3. Every normal boss in a raid boss gives you 5. Every heroic raid boss gives you 10. So there's a very clear progression path. This, you know exactly what you have to do to get this many points. But then what you do with them is you can use them to kind of target craft an item into Titanforged. So this would kind of be like the reforging option. And I remember a lot of people, reforging was when it split the community, I think, a little bit, because some people were like, it's great because this is an upgrade, but I don't need crit, I need haste, so I can take half the crit and make it haste. It's more of an upgrade. That's good. But then it also felt like, I do think the developer commentary on that, which was feeling the need to reforge your gear before actually being able to use it, wasn't necessarily the best. I can get where they're coming from, but I also think removing the system because of that was silly. If people want to hold on to their gear to reforge it, or port back to the town, port back to, the city after a fight, reforge the gear, and then get summoned back, that's on them. I think removing the system entirely was very heavy-handed and unnecessary. But this wouldn't be reforging, because reforging is kind of personal taste. This would be a flat upgrade to the gear. And again, we kind of had this in Legion, I think, for a little bit, where, did they get rid of it? Where gear could just have its eye level bumped up for points. And I think, that was what had replaced reforging, was that instead of changing the stats, you would just increase the stats. And I think this is a good system, because now you're still going to grind for that best-in-slot chest piece. But now, if it drops, but it doesn't Titanforge, or it Titanforges the wrong way, you don't just scrap it and start over. Now you've attained the base gear, and now it's about modifying it. And this could really open up a whole brand new system that could be a whole lot of fun, where certain bosses drop certain items that are used in this crafting process to improve the gear. So maybe the baseline, to just take it, so you can take it baseline gear, and then it Warforges for 5 more item levels, Titanforges for 10 more, whatever it ends up being. Let's call it, Warforge for 5, Titanforge for 10. And then there's that third tier where it gains a new stat. And so the gear can drop anywhere on that chart. So you can either get the base gear all the way up to Titanforge with the tertiary. And now you can give it to this guy, and then give him currency, and then also maybe secondary items, and then specifically add certain stats. So the Valor points would just Warforge or Titanforge it for, a certain, maybe 10 or 25 Valor points. But then for 30 Valor points and some specific secondary drop, you can now add that tertiary stat. Or make it crafted, make it normal crafting reagents. I think that's a great idea, because then it brings in an economic part of the equation. So now people can, sell their ores directly to somebody, because you need 50 ores to add a socket to this item. Maybe you want to add avoidance to it, so you would need leather, because leather's kind of the agi avoid, kind of thing. So, and do it like that. So, ore adds a socket. You can craft it with a certain amount of leather and add avoidance. You can craft it with, this, magic dust, whatever it is for enchanting, and that adds leech. Because now you have kind of a community economy factor that's built in. So now, again, it adds another use for these items people are gathering, and that's good because it engages the economy a little bit more. It keeps things from being pigeonholed. It gives people who gather another outlet for sales and, the generation of gold, which is also good. But now the person has the option where, shit, yeah, guys, I got that base chest, and now I just got to work on upgrading it. And now that person who was kind of just running shit randomly in order to get the gear that they wanted now has a clear progression path for what they're going to do next. And that actually ties in even more so into the next thing, because now I need to work on my trinket. But while trying to farm that trinket, every day running the same dungeon to get the trinket base, you're gathering valor points to be used on this new forging system. And now everybody's happy. Because now you can focus on, because now what are you farming? I'm farming the gear base. Now maybe it Titanforges with a perfect tertiary stat, and fuck yeah, I don't have to do anything else. Perfect. And now you become, I think that this system would make Titanforging much more appreciated, because now when a piece of gear Titanforges, not only is it an upgrade, and now you can go, shit, yeah, I don't have to farm up all the stuff to upgrade it anymore. So now it feels even better, because not only did you get the gear, you've now saved time, rather than at Titanforging, you're like, okay, it's an upgrade. This is what I wanted. And I think this actually would make the, reward system of getting a new piece even better. And I think that was a lot of it, because I remember farming stuff for craftable gear, during Burning Crusade, during Wrath, and then all of a sudden you get a drop in a raid and it's an upgrade, and you're like, oh fuck yeah, I don't have to bother anymore. Like I'm gonna go resell all that shit because I don't need it anymore. I'm gonna use it to craft something else. Like it was this feeling of you've moved up ahead. Your plans just got thrown forward 10 steps, and you feel great about it because now you're much farther along your kind of plan and path of progression. I think this idea of targetable Titanforging, I think, could take what is considered to be generally a very bad system that's overall considered a failure by a lot of the players, especially the core player base, and turn it into something that is seen as a much better thing. And again, it doesn't require any changing or tweaking. The gear would Titanforge exactly as it does, but there's now the option to craft. And I think the one catch to this would be those tertiary stats that come if you Titanforge and you're lucky. You can now undo those and replace them with something else. That would be the kind of only oddball part of this. So I kind of envision the window for this is the left side, you would pop in the piece of gear, and then the right side would give you a menu of items that you select. So there would be, 3 bars. So the first one you would just click. The first 2 would just be bars, and then the last one would be a selection of options, again, for the tertiary stat. And then each tertiary would have, a certain cost associated with it. Again, maybe it's, it's platinum ore for a socket, or it's, whatever the rare leather skinning good is for avoidance, and, this for that, blah, 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 blah. And it's a simple interface. And then if the gear's already got something, it would simply be like putting in a new gem where you would select, I want to add leech to this piece of gear, and it would say by doing this you will permanently remove the stat that's currently on there. Yes, that's fine. And then you go ahead and boom, you now have your best in slot gear exactly the way that you want it. So you get and I think this is also good because it kind of adds in the ability to select and focus certain things that Reforging gave you, which allowed you to kind of customize your character a little bit differently than how everybody else plays, because somebody might focus crit while you're going to focus haste. It provides that level of customization, which I think is good because it helps diversify the player base, so everybody's not, every, fire mage or every sub-rogue or every, free warrior doesn't really play exactly the same. It adds some flavor to kind of the community as a whole. And I think it's also good because now you feel as if you've accomplished something. Because you've gotten exactly what you want, and it's exactly the way that you want it. I think this idea of what this would do is it would remove this mass of choices from the game for where your next upgrade comes from, because now it becomes about the base. And this is actually, and I'm kind of talking it out loud. This is very much how Path of Exile works, and I think, again, this is part of why Path of Exile is very endearing to a lot of people, because the end game gear progression for Path of Exile is very much based off this idea of getting the correct base of the correct quality. Well, not even the correct quality, it's the correct base with the correct sockets and links, which even that can be forged. Everything in Path of Exile can be kind of crafted. But then once you get the correct base with the correct sockets and the correct links, then the kind of layering new stats into it via the crafting system, right? And so there's very much, and Path of Exile does have a lot of randomness to the way it works. So you could get exactly what you want, you could get something that's partially what you want, you could get something that's completely useless. But it's all in your hands. It still starts with kind of the random drop, kind of the RNG of the drop chance of the base gear, but then it's up to you. And even if you fuck it up in Path of Exile, you can use an Orb of Scouring and start over. So once you get that base, you're ostensibly, the random part's done to a degree. The drop chance, at least, is done. Now it's just about getting, the RNG to work with you as far as the appropriate stats. But that feels a lot better than just really randomly waiting for something to happen. Because at least the power is in your hands, you feel as if you're progressing towards something. And I really think WoW could very easily, and again, this idea is not complicated. We're not talking about a piece of gear drops with no stats at all, and you've got to slot them all in one by one. Again, the base gear is there. It's a chest with blah, blah, blah strength and blah, blah, blah stamina, blah, blah, blah haste, and blah, blah, blah crit. That's never going to change. That is the piece of gear as it was designed by the developers. And then the Warforged and Titanforging just turns the numbers up a little bit, and then you get to pick that tertiary stat. I think this would be an excellent way of handling the negative feedback and the negative feelings of the current kind of gear progression in the end game. And it's funny because people complain about the grind for gear in Battle for Azeroth, which there is no grind. This would actually add in a grind, but I think people don't mind that because it's something to do. And again, I think, off the cuff, I said you could use crafting reagents to base off of the tertiary stats, but maybe even more so do something that anybody can farm. Which I think they've kind of gotten rid of that, haven't they? There's no there's no this of shadow or this of fire. There's no moats or primals or anything anymore, I don't think. I think that went out with the game, because now it's everything kind of bland and simple. So add that back in. Again, we had the Blood of Sargeras back in Legion. Add something like that in. I guess it's the Expulsum now, which again you kind of get just by getting gear and then throwing it into the scrapper. So I guess you could do it that way too, because then it's what are you doing now? I'm just grinding. I'm just doing random shit for blues to scrap them to try to get the Expulsum. I think that's again a little too much. That's RNG on top of RNG, so that doesn't feel good. So if they just, again, add in an item like the Blood of Sargeras that drops from everywhere, but with just a higher chance from, tougher, rarer mobs. Because then, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm going to so-and-so to grind out, elites to try to get Blood of Sargeras. Okay, that's something you can do, because I need the Blood of Sargeras so I can finish the crafting so I can finish the Titanforging on my gear. Cool. It now gives you something to do and something to progress towards. And I think that's really what people want.